it's Diana Becker and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to tell you some scary stories. Hopefully they won't rock your boat too much. They actually happened to me and they didn't kill me, so I'm still alive. But my husband was trying to kill me for years. I did not catch on that he was trying to kill me because I believed that everyone was a good person inside. I couldn't get my head around the idea of someone being a bad person. But just to give you an idea of what kind of person my husband was, my ex-husband. He told me a story of how he made this woman in a business meeting break down and quit his company, the company he was working for, by just sitting next to her and clicking a pen every time she tried to talk in the meeting. And she got so frustrated, she got really flustered, and she quit. Well, he had no motivation to do this other than to see if he could do it, which means he actually gets pleasure out of hurting people. And I also heard when he was a child, he was one of those kids that would torture animals. So, of course, when I married him, I thought he was a good guy. So I didn't know this till after I was married and trying to get out. I don't want you to think I would marry someone like that. So he found out I had a heart condition. And immediately after then, he started jumping out at me from behind doors. He'd like hide in a dark house. I'd come home, I would think he's not there, and I'd walk way back in the back room, and all of a sudden he'd jump out at me. And this guy was like 6'2", 300 pounds, and very intense, emotionally intense. And when he would like go, ah, he was really scary. And my heart would skip beats like crazy. I did not like stress. I did not like roller coasters or anything that would make my heart beat because it was so uncomfortable. But I think he thought it was going to kill me, and it didn't kill me. It just made me uncomfortable. So when I confronted him about this, he said he was basically trying to train me to be able to tolerate more stress. He was going to help me. He knew better than my doctors. So then along the way in my relationship with him, I started seeing other things. Like he would say, I had a horse, and I would go out and visit the horse. And he didn't like that I was splitting my time between the family and the horse. But that was my exercise. That was my peace of mind. And he said, that horse has got to go. And 2 weeks later, the horse died. It got colic and died. And I thought it was something I did. I thought maybe I gave it the wrong kind of feed because it was summer and I had switched its feed around that time. So I didn't think that much of it. We got a guinea pig for my daughter. And my husband said, that guinea pig has got to go, because the guinea pig used to squeal. It used to go, wee, 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 really loud. And it was work to take care of it, and pets always, have to be cleaned up after. And of course, things weren't exactly the way he wanted it. So he said, that guinea pig has got to go. So 2 weeks later, the guinea pig was dead. It was laying in the bottom of the cage, all bloated with its feet up. And my poor daughter was devastated. And it was only about a year old, but I didn't know better, and I thought maybe that was the typical lifespan of a guinea pig. So then I had this dog. It was a Weimaraner, and it was the most beautiful dog and very intelligent. And that dog was protective of me, and that dog was suspicious of from day one, and that dog was always by my side. And I don't know what motivated him to say it, but he said, that dog has got to go. I don't think the dog did anything to bother him, except that I gave it attention and he was jealous or something. I don't know. I mean, this is retrospect. At the time, I just thought that he was looking out for me. He knew that I needed to spend more time with the family, So he said, the dog has got to go. And I heard that expression again, and I remembered the other 2 times I heard it. And when he said it, he was tinkering at his desk. He had made this head cooler. This guy was a little kooky, but he made like a tube that would go around his head, and he would run antifreeze through it with a pump because it would cool his head off. And he said that his head was like a computer, and that if he kept it cool, he'd be sharper. So he's like tinkering with his antifreeze, and he says, that dog has got to go. And I looked, and he had it open on the floor, and I said, could you please be sure to put that antifreeze away, because it's poison to dogs. It attracts dogs and it tastes sweet to them, and please be sure you put the cover on the, and as soon as I said it, I thought, why am I telling him this? And he looked at me with this weird sort of like recognition, like awakening, like, aha, you know? And I just thought, no way. There's no way this man would do that. Because I wouldn't do it. So how can I believe? You're hearing this story, you're probably thinking, this can't be real, because you would never do this, right? But that's why I told other people about the abuse my husband would do, and some people just couldn't believe it, because that's not something they would do. It's not something I could believe. But 2 weeks later, my dog was really sick, and I took him to the vet, and I had my daughter with me, and she's crying and I'm crying and my dog is really sick, and they're examining the dog and they're telling me its liver is failing. And I was really suspicious by this time that my ex-husband had killed my other pets. And I said to the lady, is this consistent with poisoning by antifreeze? Because I just said, is there any way to know? She said, yes, it's consistent with antifreeze poisoning. However, I said, we were putting the dog down because it was so sick. And I said, can we do an autopsy? Can we do a blood test? Can I prove whether this is antifreeze poisoning? And she said, when antifreeze goes into the system, it kills these organs, but then it gets purged out of the blood over the course of 2 weeks. It takes 2 weeks. The animal or person is dead 2 weeks later, and there's no more trace of antifreeze in their system, so there's no way to prove that's what it was. So I kind of knew by that point, I was pretty sure that my ex-husband was behind it, because we couldn't come up with any explanation for why my dog got sick. So then my husband says, a couple weeks later, he says, I can't wait till the kids are out of the house. I can't wait till these kids are gone out of here. Which was the equivalent to me of, those kids have got to go. And I was terrified. I thought, he's going to kill my kids. So I told the kids not to take any food, not to take any drink. You might be wondering why I didn't leave him. Let me try to explain again. When you're in an abusive relationship and the person has complete control over your finances, over your life, over your computer, your phone, has cameras, is threatening you, sometimes people feel trapped, like they can't leave. Sometimes it seems more dangerous to leave. My therapist and I actually talked about sometimes when women leave a man like that, the most dangerous time is after they leave. Anyway, my kids were fine. I kept them separate from him for the rest of my marriage. And I tried to get him focused on me at all times. Whenever he seemed aggravated with the kids, I sent them out and I made sure he focused on me and I'd take care of things, you know. And I worked so hard to make sure everything was taken care of. I did the dishes, I washed and ironed his shirts, I made him lunch, I made him breakfast, I brought it to the room where he was staying. He was staying upstairs. I tried to bring everything to him so he would never come down. It was like having an ogre living upstairs. And the kids would come home with me. They'd go to knock on the door with the door knocker, and I'd be like, quick, stop, don't knock on the door, don't wake him up. You know, he'd lay in bed sleeping or drinking, and we'd just try to tiptoe around the house. We couldn't bring people over. We'd always have Girl Scout meetings in the park because we couldn't have people over, because it was like living with an ogre. So I worked very, very, very hard, and one day I was super tired. I was so exhausted, and I was doing laundry, and it wasn't done yet, and I had to have dinner at 5 o'clock sharp, or he was angry with me, and it was 4:30, and I was trying to get everything done, and I was exhausted, and I thought, you know, if I have a cup of coffee, maybe I'll have just enough energy to keep going. I can't remember, but I think he offered me the coffee, but he gave me the coffee and I drank the coffee, and then I'm walking up the stairs with the laundry basket right after having this coffee, and I suddenly feel this intense like indigestion, and I get halfway up the stairs and it's like really hitting me, and I get upstairs and I sit down in a chair I grabbed the phone on the way to the chair because I had an intercom on my phone. And I thought, this is going to pass. This can't be a heart attack. It's indigestion from the coffee. It's too acidic. And I sat there and it just got worse and worse. And I called downstairs on the intercom and I got my daughter and I said, could you put him on the phone? And he's like saying, you're not, I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what to do. You know, it's like you don't really know. So you don't call 911. You're just like calling to your family members. And he said, you're not having a heart attack. Get me dinner, woman. And so I told my daughter, don't worry, honey, hang up. I'm going to take care of it, but I'm going to have some firefighters, some ambulance people come to the door just to make sure mommy's okay. So I hang up with her and I call 911 and I tell them what's happening. And of course it is a heart attack. They send the ambulance. They come to get me. They go to the door. And of course, all of a sudden now my ex is acting super concerned and running up the stairs and waiting on me hand and foot. So I get to the hospital and I'm treated for the heart attack and I'm admitted and I don't even remember something. I blacked out for a while, and then when I was awake in the hospital room, they wanted to keep me a couple days. My ex comes in and says, oh, turns out I talked to your doctor. You didn't have a heart attack. It was a false alarm. And now we can all go home. You can get your clothes on right now. He said you're free to go and we'll go home and you can make me dinner. And I said, honey, I think they did a blood test and they told me I had a heart attack. And he's like, oh, no, that was a false alarm. It was all in your head. It's fine now. And they said you can go. And he's like trying to get me dressed and out the door. And I'm like resisting. And meanwhile, I do want to go home because I'm terrified of what he's going to do with my kids when I'm not there. But I know I'm sick and I know I can't take care of myself. And so the doctor comes in. He's just doing his rounds. He just happens to come in. And I said, is it true you told me I should go home because I didn't have a heart attack? He said, no, you had a heart attack. You need to stay here. So I don't know what my ex-husband was planning, but he was trying to get me to go home out of the hospital without even being discharged. But I have real stories of him trying to kill me. This is just the prelude.